This is the Truth Network.
Christian Car Guy Radio Show.
I say this calls for action, and now, nip it in the bud. Nip it in the bud. You got to nip it in the bud.
Baby, you can drive my car. Baby, you can drive my car. Beep, 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 yeah.
Good morning and welcome to Christian Car Guy Radio. This is a show that, once again, it is a call-in show. So if you're listening to us, would love to hear you call in to us, and the number is 866-348-7884. My name is Jerry Mathis with Ray's Body Shop and Wrecker Service, the body shop guy. And this morning in the studio with me is not just any junkyard guy, but the one and only Bob Young. And he's not just the junkyard guy; he's my friend and he's my brother in Christ.
Amen, brother. It's great to be here this morning. Hope we got some stuff that people really need to hear this morning, and hope people will call in and share it with us this morning.
Yeah, this morning, one of the things I want to talk about is, you know what, get up last night watching the weather and stuff, and you see this cold front just sort of blanketing the United States. So what that tells me is winter is amongst a lot of us, and it's coming our way, and it's coming everybody's way. Is just to sort of that winter drive, and what does that mean? So over the next little bit, we're going to talk about preparing our cars, preparing ourselves, and all of that stuff for winter driving in the winter months. So if you can think of something that we don't think about, something that puts you in a better place and made it where your vehicle was more manageable during the winter time, or if it's you've had a breakdown and things that you wish you had in your trunk that we don't mention, or you have a story to tell about that, just give us a call. And I know that Bob's like me, we put a lot of miles on over the years and stuff, and there's been a lot of times that probably should have just stayed at home, would have been the best choice we could have made.
Absolutely. They called us from work years ago. I think it was about 80, 83, 84 possibly. They called us from work. I worked second shift, and they said, "Don't come in today. The snow's too bad." So I went to the store to get my bread and my milk and my eggs, and on the way back from the store, the lady lost control of her car, and her Chrysler New Yorker spun around, and her passenger door hit me as square in the front end as you possibly can hit. Well, at the store, when I got back in the car after I got my stuff, my seatbelt had slid down behind the seat. I was like, well, I just got to go right up here. It'll be all right. I'll get it out when I get home. Well, I didn't have my seatbelt on. My head hit the windshield. My chin caught the steering wheel when I came back off of it. And, I was very, very, very fortunate. Split my chin open, cracked my kneecap and stuff. But the winter driving got me that day. And we'd been warned about the weather and told to stay home, but they never called us again from work and said stay home. They told us to stay home, and I stayed home and had an accident and really did some damage, but I was lucky to live through that one.
Yeah, and we get out in the winter driving. A couple years ago, I had told Taylor, my daughter, she had a little car, and I said, don't get out driving and things. So I picked her up, or she came by the house, and I took her. She was to work where she needed to go, and I said, let me just drive your car because I need to check it and everything. And this is why I think it's so important to start doing this checklist before you start driving into bad weather, because
Absolutely.
I'm the perfect example of this. I tell her I'm going to take her car and check it and stuff. So I'm going down 40 and hit black ice, and I looped that thing about 3 times and backed it into the guardrail. So when I get there, I called and told her, well, you got to just drive my car for a few days. I got to do some repairs. But when I did, we got the car in, and I looked, and I'd been negligent for one thing, because I looked at the rear tires, and they were definitely didn't have enough tread on to be driving them in the winter. But it was a hard lesson I learned, because I'm always telling everybody, check these things and stuff. And here it is. I had to go into work that morning, and as soon as I pulled in, everybody saw the car bumper about hanging off of the back of it and stuff. Made me feel a little kind of small, you know.
Yeah. Sometimes we got to remind ourselves to practice what we preach. You know, we come over here and we tell folks about maintaining their car. Well, just this week, I'd been noticing when I put on the brakes, I could feel something, and it got worse and worse and worse. And I was like, well, you know, I put it off. I just plain and simple procrastinated. I put it off and I put it off. And yesterday morning, I took my vehicle, and all they had to do was turn the rotors. A very minimal repair, and it drives like a brand new one now. And I'm so aggravated with myself for putting up with a smaller problem, and I waited till it got big enough to where when you hit the brakes, the steering wheel would shudder a little bit, and I just put it off. So we try to tell y'all what to do, but sometimes we have to remind ourselves to listen to what we're talking about, because it just changed the vehicle completely.
Absolutely. You know, and this morning, one thing, I know we're going to talk about winter driving, but just something I just want to bring up, and Bob can chime in on this because he's seen enough of these situations and stuff where we talk about making decisions and stuff. And every week I'll have an incident where somebody really gets aggravated with me in our business because of we're trying to tell them
y'all have aggravated customers. Yeah. Really?
It's hard to believe, but it's sometimes it's the most simple thing, because what we'll have some of the biggest discussions on when somebody will come in, and this is something that I'm saying so anybody who's listening will probably save them some money and aggravation down the road, is when you come in, and I know our guys, the first thing they'll ask is say, well, is this going through insurance? And because we write and we do DRP for a lot of insurance companies, or has somebody written you an estimate on it? And a lot of times they'll say, yeah, but I don't want to show you the estimate. I want you to write an estimate. So then we go to explain that most estimates all estimates are written on just what you visually see. And now the way things are written and so much hidden damage, there can be, let's just say you got a $3,000 estimate, there can be $2,000 worth of hidden damage. Well, if you don't repair that vehicle by the estimate that the insurance company wrote you, they have to pay for the things that was hidden. But if they come back in and do a reinspection and you didn't do everything on there, they deduct all of that off of there. Or if you sit there and you order OEM parts, or you wanted these specific parts, and the insurance company wrote a lesser part, and you call them to come in for a supplement on that, they won't pay that kind of stuff. So it's just the fact that I always just get sort of, I wish people would understand that Ray's Body Shop and Record Service, or ABC Body Shop in another city, town, or wherever it may be, when they ask for that other estimate, isn't because they're trying to get something over on the customer or try to get more money. Most of the time they're trying to do it to save the customer a lot of aggravation and money, but it's just sort of our nature is that it doesn't matter if it's in repairing cars or getting yard work done or siding on the house. We always want to, as the consumer, we want to think we have all the cards in our pocket and think that puts us on the.
I'm as guilty as anybody of that. We find ourselves trying to save $1, and sometimes we're suspicious of people. That's what I love about dealing with you guys. I can bring it. I know you. I trust you. You've built a great reputation through all these years, and I know you're going to do the right thing. I don't have to wonder if there's any shenanigans going on or anything, and that's what we tried to build at the yard. We tried to build confidence in us and confidence that we were going to treat people right. And sometimes I gave back money when things didn't go well, but we built a really strong clientele by just trying to make people smile. There's no way you'll ever please every customer you have, but sometimes there was a customer upset one day, And he was making a little bit of a scene over there in the office, and I walked in on that side, and I said, "What's the problem? What's the problem?" I said, "They want too much for this part." And I said, "Well, how much did they ask you?" And he told me. I said, "Well, what do you want to pay?" And he told me. I said, "Sell it to him for that." And we can't always do that, but it diffused the situation. It made him smile. It made everybody standing in the office smile. And it just, we didn't make as much money, but it wasn't about the money. It's about building relationships with people and letting people know that we weren't 100% dollar oriented, that we were there to help people. And we wanted people to come back. If they leave smiling, there's a chance they might come back. If they leave with a frown on their face, they might tell 20 people not to come.
Yeah, that's why I think it's so important to have relationships where if it's a body shop, a towing, a junkyard, wherever it may be, build a relationship with them, and that way you have more than just a customer relationship with them. We'll be back in just a couple minutes. Give us a call. Welcome back to Christian Car Guy Radio. I'm Jerry Mathis of Ray's Body Shop and Rec Service with Bob Young. This morning we said we was going to talk a little bit about preparing our cars for winter. And we stepped outside this morning, and I don't know about you, Bob, but I said it's winter.
It's winter, that's for sure. Lots of signs. People snuggled up at the football games last night. We got a couple of messages from people that were at the high school game last night, and they looked like they were bundled up well.
Yeah, and I always have people talking about, this is football season. I don't know. I didn't mind that early in the season when it's up in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah, T-shirt at the football game's good with me.
Yeah, I'm happy with that. That was football season for me. That whether now I stay at home and listen to the score.
As the years go by and I get a little older, I used to look so forward to winter and the cold and all that, because that meant ski season was coming. But my knees and my hips and my little afflictions don't really send me to the ski slopes much anymore. So it's not as important as it used to be. My son used to just get so excited when it got cold, and the first flake of snow that followed, or the first time they said snow, it didn't matter if they were talking about it across the country. You just hear that word snow, and he just lit up like a candle. It was a real sight to see. But I was watching this morning and watching about the weather that's up there now, and then another pass coming right behind it, and people's getting some real serious snow up north, and it's time to start thinking about it even down here. And last night it was below freezing, and there's some more of that coming, so everybody needs to get their stuff ready for it.
Yeah, I saw on the news or on sports last night, or I guess it was last night, they showed a clip from Lambeau Field up in Green Bay. Did you see that with the snow up there?
I did not.
It would just look like a big bowl of snow cream or something.
Yeah, and that's where our Panthers play Sunday.
Yeah, so they're gonna be cold. I can guarantee you that. And I feel for somebody getting all that snow out of there, but there was plenty of it. Now back to our cars. Now, this is sort of one of those things where the worst time to start thinking about preparing your car for winter is when you're out there driving it and needing to be on the road. I mean, now's the time to start thinking about that. And I sort of have a checklist, and Bob, you throw in there also what you can think of, because I know I miss plenty of things. But one thing the first thing, as I mentioned, failure number one, when I didn't look at Taylor's rear tires to know that they probably shouldn't be riding in the snow and the ice, and I hop in it and I prove that point by backing it into the guardrail.
Visual confirmation.
Yeah, there was no doubt about that one. But that's one of the first places to start looking. You always want to, with tires, it's sort of like with brake rotors, to not getting them turned. You keep thinking, well, I can go a little more. It's not that bad. When you start winter driving, you need to really check your tires. Should be the number one thing to start checking. Make sure you got good depth on your tires, and make sure your air pressure. What's the thing with air pressure in the winter, Bob?
Well, as soon as that temperature drops, and I experienced it this week, I have a little pickup. I don't drive a whole lot, but I still, need to haul a little something every now and then. So I jumped in that truck, and as I pulled it around the house, and I noticed one of the tires were low. And I've been hearing a lot of conversation, as the weather gets colder, people talking about their tires a little bit and their air pressure. I mean, it's a natural phenomenon. When it gets colder, your air pressure in your tires is going to be lower. So you need to check and make sure you're properly inflated, because that truck must have developed a small leak, because one of the tires, all the tires were a little low because the temperature changed, but one of them was significantly low, and it definitely needed some love.
Yeah, and another thing, tires number one. Another one that I think is easy to overlook is our wiper blades.
This week too.
There you go. Bob has checked these things off. I'm gonna say, what was your? I'm gonna let you read down the list. What you did to your car?
Well, we're going to the beach for a little stretch, and these things start. I had put up with that wiper blade, and we hadn't had so much rain, but the other night I noticed that wiper blade was flopping around, and so it was time to get that, and I just stopped and pulled in, and I didn't get the most expensive blade, but I didn't get the cheapest blade. I went for something in the middle, and just the other day it sprinkled a little bit, and I got to turn those wipers on, and it was so, it was just awesome, because there's nothing more aggravating. It doesn't bother you when it's not raining, and you don't feel like getting out and changing them when it is raining. And then when you turn them off, it's not making noise, so you don't think about it. But I finally got by, and I got a new set of wiper blades, and they are amazing.
And that streak, the streak where it doesn't quite wipe it is always
right in the line of view.
Yeah, it never fails. It's dead center of my sights. I mean, it's just boom, never fails. Other thing is making sure we check the antifreeze and the oil and all the fluids in your vehicle. Really it's important to make sure that you check that antifreeze. And now you can go to most, auto parts stores, and there's a couple things you can get checked. Everybody goes, how do I check my battery? How do I check my antifreeze? You go and they will do that for you now. And every city has an auto parts store that'll do that for you, or go to if you have a relationship with a garage, pull in there. They'll be glad to check that out for you.
Absolutely. They don't mind at all. And they have the ability to plug your car in and tell you stuff that you might not know. The electronic checking of a battery now. It used to be kind of, they could tell you a little bit, but they can tell you a lot about it now. And just because diagnostics have come so far. And it's really made a world of difference.
Yeah, and then another thing I always say, when it starts to get cold and we start worrying about leaves falling and salt on the roads, this I hear something that is cosmetic, but you don't think it would make a difference. But for longevity of your vehicle, this is the time of year to put a coat of wax on that thing. And people overlook that, and that's one of them that I get on soapbox on, because the end of the year, first of winter, and the beginning of spring, in my opinion, is the two prime times to put a coat of wax on your vehicle, because it's going to make a world of difference on the finish of it. And
the longevity of your paint too, huh?
Yeah, it'll last. You don't have to go to the body shop as much and be looking for a paint job if you do those little maintenance things. We'll be back in a moment. Again, you're listening to Christian Car Guy Radio.
Robby Dilmore here, and the Truth Network podcasts have helped make MyPillow the company it is today. And now Mike Lindell, who, by the way, I've met and is a great guy, the inventor and CEO of MyPillow, wants to give back to our listeners. For the first time, you can get deep discounts on all MyPillow products if you go to MyPillow.com right now and click on the new radio listener specials. Who never thought that my dream job would be selling MyPillows? Maybe you're getting tired of these sleeping jokes, but you can get deep discounts on MyPillow pillows, mattress toppers, bed sheets, and so much more. For example, the body pillow is regularly $89.99, but with a promo code GETTRUTH, it's only $29.99. Remember, all MyPillow products come with a 60-day money-back guarantee and a 10-year warranty. Just go to MyPillow.com and click on the new radio listener specials and get deep discounts on all MyPillow products, including the body pillow for only $29.99. Enter promo code GETTRUTH or call 800-942-9613 for these great radio specials.
Baby, you can drive my car. Baby, you can drive my car. Beep, 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 yeah.
Baby, maybe we don't need to be driving the car in the snow. That may be the thing. You know, one thing, well, I'll tell you what, before we go into that, some more things on check on your car, I just want to take just a moment to make mention. One, that if you hadn't noticed, Robby is not here this morning. He's at the Men's Masculine Journey Boot Camp. And I'm sure they're having a blessed time and just some powerful things that go on there. And hope he's having a great time and well-deserved. He don't really get much of a break. I think he works pretty hard while he's at the boot camps. Bob is...
Yeah, but he's changing lives. He's changing lives. I got to go to that. My son and I went together years ago, and it was just incredible, the impact it'll have on your life to get away, disconnect from the world, unplug, and just be at one with the Lord and share some time with some men and share your faith and build your faith. They just have such amazing results and change a lot of lives up there.
And not to dive too deep into it because of, I mean, we could take the whole show doing that, but
Yeah.
but the fact that, you know what, how God sort of puts things and places things, talk about going with Rob and all that. I mean, all of a sudden when you look back in hindsight, you just see, you know, how God orchestrates things that you don't even recognize at the time. We just sort of get caught up in the moment, but whenever we're able to reflect back, you just see, man, God is pretty cool.
He knew what was coming in my future, God did, and he prepared me, and he allowed me to build memories and got me the equipment I would need to handle what was coming. And I didn't know what was coming, but he did. And without the preparation, without all the memories, without all the things he did for me, he had been through my checklist, and he had me prepared and equipped to handle the tragedy I went through. And that kind of ties it together with getting your checklist and getting your car prepared, and get your life prepared for the tragedies, for the snowfalls, for the storms, for the freezing weather that you're going to face in life. By the same token, you need to get your car prepared, but getting your life prepared is as important, probably more important than getting the car ready.
Absolutely. I mean, we just thinking about that. It's all so much of just putting it in God's hands and stuff, and he does prepare us in life for things that we don't understand it at the time, but it is like the car. If you don't, the worst time to make a decision on anything and how we cope with things, when we do it by the seat of our pants or by the moment. God's gonna walk with us through all of that stuff, and I just thank you for sharing that, Bob, because I know that's, man, I don't know, I'm over here and I want to get choked up, and I know, we sit there and look back at how God orchestrates things. And
yes, sir, absolutely.
The other thing I want to just take a moment to mention, besides Robby not being here, but also is because one of the things he's an advocate for and really a passion for is Jesus' labor of love and that ministry. And I know Bob plays a big part of that. Lori plays a big part of that, and it's some amazing things that go on there. And one thing that Bob will know as well as I do, and which Robby will always talk about, is just the power in that first prayer when he makes that first contact and just prays with them, and how that sort of changes. It really just changes everything.
Well, I've known for a while that I needed to be more involved with that ministry, and the opportunity has been presented to me to be a bigger part of that. And I'll admit I'm very nervous. I sometimes I'm better at speaking to a group than I am with one-on-one. And what I'm going to be doing now is going to be some more one-on-one. And that's probably God doing that. I need a little work in that area. And so he's presented me with an opportunity to be a bigger part of what's going on and some one-on-one relations with people that really need some help. And I'm nervous. I'm nervous because it's something a little bit new to me. But if I think back, I've dealt with people one-on-one at the yard. I've dealt with people one-on-one at church. I've dealt with kids one-on-one. And I think I just kind of let my doubts and insecurities hold me back from fulfilling what I can do for this ministry. And it's just a great thing.
I'm going to say something now, Bob. Don't let it go outside this room. Just between me and you, I don't think you have a problem going one-on-one with anybody. I mean, God's going to use you in a mighty way in that. I know that. And if you're listening and you're thinking, you know what, that's something I've heard about on the radio, and I know people that's been touched by that ministry. Hey, there's an opportunity for everybody to help. I know you can go online. We need people to join the prayer team, to just take and just pray for the ministry. We need donations. You can go online, Jesus Labor of Love, and make a donation. I think if you request a $25 donation and you request a T-shirt, we'll send you out a T-shirt. Or if you just want to just give a few bucks, and I'll always say, don't take money from your local church. But if God's laying on your heart that to help in this area, man, I encourage you to do it, because every dollar that goes in is used for the ministry. And usually you think about it, when somebody makes a contact to a organization like Jesus Labor of Love, these women, most of them are to the point where they don't feel like they have anywhere else to turn. And it may not be it's sort of that where you wish you could make a bigger impact, but every little bit that this ministry does, it makes a huge impact. And the biggest impact it makes is let people know that somebody cares about them. But more importantly than anything, Jesus Christ cares about them. And that's just powerful. So if you're listening and you feel led, I mean, certainly we'd love to see the donations roll in, because there's always a need out there.
Years ago, I was donating to one organization, and I found out how much of the money went to administrative stuff and things like that. And I was shocked. I was angry at how much money was not going, that I thought was being sent right to people in need. But this organization right here is 100% of the money you send. It's not for no administrative fees. Most of the people working with us, all the people's working with us, is donating their time, and it's a great place to donate, and your money will be used for helping the widows and single moms.
Yeah, it is. It's an awesome ministry. Now back to our getting our cars ready for winter. A couple other things. We talked about all the things to check. Check our tires, check our wipers, check the oil, check the antifreeze, on and on. A couple things that we didn't mention that we need to check. And one, I'm going to, maybe couple of the most important ones is, one, check the weather. See what, before you go out and know you're going to be on the road for a few hours or miles away from your home where you need to come back. I mean, check the weather, especially when you know storms are rolling in. The worst thing that can happen is to get caught in a storm that you didn't know was coming, because then you're definitely not prepared and you don't have the right clothes on. It's just everything about that can be dangerous. Other thing I always say to check is to check your confidence. When you're out driving in winter weather and during the storm, during the snow, the ice, the worst wrecks we deal with in our business and in the towing end of it are people that are out driving four-wheel drive vehicles because the confidence level, when they get behind the wheel, they think they can conquer anything, and snow and ice isn't going to affect them. They can just mosey right by everybody and just blow everybody off the road. And that usually is, we get some really bad wrecks or some.
Can have some disastrous results, you know. That four-wheel drive will help you go, but it don't help you whoa.
Yeah.
You know, when it's time to stop, you know, the four-wheel drive vehicle is pretty much the same as any other vehicle at that time when it's time to stop. So, but that's really well said the way you put that, because it does bolster your confidence when you have four-wheel drive. Oh, I've got this. But you got to remember that yours don't stop any better. It might go a little better than some of them, but when it comes time to stop, it's a level playing field when it's time to stop.
And that going better it can be a disadvantage because it may get you, the speed may be up because you're just cruising along, but still when it loses traction or you hit that ice, it doesn't matter how many wheels you have that are turning because you don't know where they're going.
Absolutely.
And it can definitely put you in a mess. So checking your confidence is probably one of the biggest ones that I have. We come back, we're going to take a quick look of what should we have in the trunk of our vehicle during the winter. So we're going to take a look at that. There's so many things. We talked about keeping the cars prepared. We need to be prepared. What if we get stranded on the side of the road? Be back in a moment.
In a Chevy, in a hurry, in a pouring down rain.
Welcome back to Christian Car Guy Radio. And Bob, as we're sitting there winding this part down about the vehicle itself, I just want to make a mention because I can just imagine, I haven't asked you this, but wintertime, you go outside and your car is completely frozen over, covered in snow or covered in ice. How many glasses have you had to replace where people went in and had to boil in water and pour? I know on our end of it, you'll pour hot water on there and boom, start popping glasses.
That's amazing that you said that. I just had checked this. It said hot water. I wrote it down a while ago when we were talking about something, and people have done it. You know, just water at spigot temperature. If you pour that on there, it can break a glass, or especially if you have a small chip in your windshield, and then that hot water hits, it's just going to spider web and go everywhere. So please, please, please do not pour hot water on a cold windshield to remove frost or ice or anything from it. It's not a good solution.
Yeah, and I really do think that people, you know, before you hit the road, especially the highway, try to get all that snow off of your vehicle best you can, because
even the top. It's happened so many times.
Those big sheets fly off in the cars behind you, and it's caused many of an accident because of that. But I'm gonna tell you a way not to do it. I mean, take a broom, brush it off, or take your arm and drag it off. You would not believe how many people come in that have, you know, you got those snow shovels, and I don't see why in the world you wouldn't just take that snow shovel and scrape that snow off of your vehicle. I can't tell you how many ruined vehicles have came in the shop when spring hits and they're trying to, well, all these scratches, well, I don't know where they came from, and you're looking at it, and then they'll start, oh, wait, maybe it did come when I used a shovel to get the snow off of my car. That's not a good idea.
Not the best. I try to use a soft bristle broom when I'm sweeping the snow, and the kind with the handle in the middle, like a push broom. You can really reach up there on the taller vehicles and pull a bunch of snow off in one pass. And one of the coolest commercials I've seen lately is the little boys next door go over and shovel the lady's driveway for her, and then in just a little bit she's baking cookies, and she takes them over and says thank you for shoveling her driveway. But that removal of the snow is just, you know, you see people riding around with that one little spot. They got a round circle that they can barely see out, big enough maybe for their head to fit, you know, and that's the only place they can see out of the car. And that's just so dangerous because it just obstructs your vision so much.
Yeah, don't drive it. Just just don't drive it till you can see. I mean, the visual stuff is important. Now, real quick before we wrap up, I want to make sure that I do talk about, what do you pack in your car? Because for one thing, you're traveling, bad weather, and there's so many things. I know, there's the standard things you always think about is a flashlight and a blanket, and certainly those are important. But, if you have some jumper cables, and another thing I always like to do, and I'm going to be traveling much during the winter, I'll always have a complete change of clothes in the trunk. Because if I get stuck up, or if I see somebody else stuck up and get out and start pushing them, all of a sudden I've got my shoes are wet, my pants are wet, my shirt's wet, everything I'm soaking wet, and you get in the car. Hey, I just always try to carry a complete change of clothes.
That's really good. I've never really thought of that. I'm big on keeping a set of coveralls with me in the cold weather. Something I can, slip into, and if I have to crawl up under something. But that's kind of the junkyard and tow guy thing. Those coveralls come in so handy when it's really cold. You just throw on an extra layer, and if you happen to get nasty, you can zip them right off and have clean clothes back on and stuff. One thing I wanted to mention is that we hadn't said is the washer fluid in your vehicle in the wintertime. I had that on my list, and that's one of the things I hadn't mentioned yet. And it's so important because, you use a little bit of washer fluid from time to time, but in the winter when that salt's on the road and then there's a little moisture and then the big truck goes by and all of a sudden your windshield's covered with a salty solution, and you hit the wiper and it gets part of it, but that streak right in the middle, that you need to look at. Always there. And you need to make sure you have washer fluid and that it's, strong enough that it's going to stay, not freeze overnight, but that, you can get that salt off your windshield, because it has blinded me so many times and it seems to never fail. You're going down the road and you hit it one time and then your low washer fluid light comes on and wow, I didn't even think about that. So put that on your list too, is to make sure your washer fluid, windshield washer fluid is up to snuff and ready to go.
Yeah, and I think, Bob, if I'm not wrong, you can washer fluid. You can get winter fluid also.
Fluid that will not freeze, and it's formulated for just that, not to freeze and to give you relief from that salt and stuff that's on the windshield.
Yeah, and when we're talking about it's just all of this is about is just being prepared. Just make sure you think things through so you're not on the side of the road stranded, or you get out and realize your tires are slick, or you get caught out in a storm, because the worst time to start thinking about all of this stuff is when you're sitting on the side of the road stuck, because at that point there's nothing you can do about it. But the other thing I want to make sure that I mentioned is just I talked about just a change of clothes, but even if you don't want to carry that, at least carry a dry hat and some gloves or something in the back that just has something to get you where you can get warm. Put some batteries back there, and I love to always take a battery operated, or what I have in the back of a wife's car is one of those little crank radios that you just crank up that doesn't need a battery. It has a little crank on it. It's a little AM, FM radio. That way, if you ever need it and you don't have batteries or something, you got that. I also keep a spare phone charger. Just the thing is, just be as prepared as you can.
The gloves were such a key. When you said that, it really rang a bell for me. Have a set of gloves in there, because so many times you'll be somewhere and it snows, and your car's got a good coat of snow all over it. So having that ice scraper, and the ones with the longer handles that have the rubber squeegee on one side, it's got a hard plastic scraper on one side, but it's got a rubber squeegee where you can reach out on your car and pull snow off. And you can reach up on top and pull the snow off and clean your windshield. And you got that squeegee there that's not going to scratch your paint. It's not going to scratch your windshield. And if you've got those gloves on Jerry mentioned before, you can clean off your whole car and not lose a finger. 'Cause so many times I've been out there with no scraper and no gloves, and I'm taking a bare hand with and I've got cold hands anyway. I tell everybody it's my big warm heart draws all the heat out of my hands. But, and out there with the hands and just trying to scrape that stuff off with your hands, and it's just miserable.
Then you get in the car and you're trying to put your hands up there, trying to get the defrost, trying to thaw back out.
Absolutely. I fell asleep in a car one night and woke up, and I had 4 inches of snow on the car. The Lord drug me. He brought me through that one too. I mean, I could have froze to death, should have frozen to death, but he wasn't ready for me to leave this world. But it's just, I had to get out and clean off the car, and my hands were just really numb. It took a while to get past that, but it's just so many things we need to prepare for when this cold weather comes.
Yeah, just don't get caught off guard. That's the message this morning I'm trying to get across, and Bob's trying to get across. Just prepare. I mean, get those checklists, check your car out, make sure you have those supplies there. Another thing is I wrap up again. We missed Robby this morning. I'm sure he's having a great weekend. Also, if God's laid on your heart to contribute to Jesus Labor of Love, I encourage you to go to Jesus Labor of Love or go to the Christian Car Guy website, and it'll give you a link to get there. Other thing, just to wrap up, Bob, and you know what? I hope that everybody that's listening tomorrow morning will be in the local church.
Amen.
Because you know what? Hey, I used to drive the bus for the ministry at Pinedale, and had a woman that we picked up, and she'd always say, I go to church so they know what side I'm on. And that's what we need to do. We need to make sure people know what side we're on, and that isn't just on Sunday morning, that's every day of the week.
Absolutely, Jerry. Thanks for having me here today.